Tonight on our Great American panel, 3 great Americans and 1 non-great non-American moderator. He's the senior editor of the Daily Caller. Jamie Weinstein is here. He was Bill Bradley's deputy campaign manager. Fox News contributor Jacques de Graaf joins us, and she's the former chairwoman of the Young Republican National Federation. Republican strategist Benkie also joins us. I'm shocked to discover Young Republicans actually have a chairwoman. Is that your formal name?
Oh,
or
I
is it
can't
chairperson
believe you
or
said that.
You're a chairman, aren't you?
Yeah.
Come on, Mao was a chairman. You can be a chairman.
All right, sounds good.
Right, that's good. Let's talk about the South Carolina voter ID law that the Department of Justice has come out against. I don't get this. I'm an immigrant. Under U.S. law, I have to have my green card with me if I go for a walk in the woods out back of my house in New Hampshire. I have my green card on me now. I'm obligated by U.S. law to have it on me at all times, under a law introduced by Franklin Roosevelt. Why is it unreasonable for the defining act of citizenship? Why shouldn't you be expected to have a photo ID for that check?
Well, they're not asking for someone with a passport that's stamped by, 16 countries in order to vote. They're asking for a photo ID, which the bill also stipulates that if you don't have a license or a passport, that the state will provide you a free ID. So there are some stipulations there. The letter from the Obama Justice Department says that this might adversely affect minority voters because 20% of them, 20% more of them are unlikely to have a photo ID. Just an interesting point to note, Rhode Island recently passed a similar bill, and Rhode Island has a Democratic upper chamber and a Democratic House and an independent governor, Lincoln Chafee, who theoretically was once a Republican.
Right, in very great theory. But Jacques, isn't this kind of condescending to minority voters? As I said, immigrants are expected to acquire paperwork and photo ID on day one of setting foot in the United States. Why?
You got to tell the whole story. The state of South Carolina, in particular districts, are protected by the law, by federal law, because of the history, the rampant history of discrimination and bigotry in those places, which prevented people from voting. The same places had tests at polling sites that people had to pass, which were found onerous and discriminating. And so, in light of that historical reason, there's a different standard for those places.
Yeah,
passing. And there's enough vestiges of that left, the Justice Department believes, to uphold these requirements.
But do you think it's onerous?
This is insane. You can't even function in our society without a without an ID of any kind. It's worse than this. This is all about the Democrats trying to be able to manipulate the elections, have voter fraud, cheat. It has happened. It happened in 2008.
You know what?
There's no reason to not have a voter ID. How in the world can you function without? I'm from Indiana. We have the voter ID law, and it works very well. And if this is all about the vote.
But there's a lot of places that don't have IDs that work fine.
Wait a minute, but Jacques, there's millions of people. I'm one of them. I mean, under the law in most states, I could walk into a polling booth and say I'm here to vote, even though I don't live in those states and I sound like a sinister foreigner, and those guys would be obligated just to let me walk in there. How can that be right?
But your vote could then be challenged by comparing this.
Yeah, but that's not right.
But no, that's just your opinion. But saying the facts are that states today have ID-less voting requirements.
That's bad.
And things are working perfectly fine,
no,
including the state that do.
But is it so onerous to have an ID? I mean, is this beyond the pale that you would require an ID?
To run a video, to go and do anything, you have to have ID to do it. No, it's worse than that.
You need a piece of photo ID to check into a New York hotel.
Of course.
I mean, why is that a more sacred act?
And then not have an ID to vote.
I mean, you need an ID to prove you're 21 to drink. You need an ID to go through the airport to get on a plane. You need an ID for all sorts of things. It doesn't seem extremely ownerious to require an ID, although he's right, there is a history of trying to exclude minority voters. But an ID does not seem onerous.
But during the time of the discrimination, when certain people were required to name picayune parts of the Constitution, the test was applied unevenly. It isn't just that the law is unreasonable. Certainly, it would sound reasonable that you ought to have, in this age of terrorism, some ID. But the laws have been held, and that's what racial profiling is all about. Some laws are applied unevenly.
How is this?
You are more likely to be allowed to vote without an ID than I am.
That's crazy.
That's the
That's
truth, though.
wrong.
But this is
No,
but this
it's
is
not
it is
true.
wrong.
And that-
It is wrong, and that is why
that's
the
why they're
standardizing
trying to
it,
use
That is why the
race card
Justice
to be able
Department
to
has
have voter
acted.
fraud.
But this is standardizing it. This is not saying some people they can in some cases
Everyone
let
should
people
have
vote
voter
without ID.
throughout
Everyone
the
has
country,
to
in
have.
every state, in every precinct.
But isn't it in a
Everyone should have a decent living wage.
But isn't it in a fundamental sense? I mean, I take your point about the historical track record here, but right now the United States runs some of the most flawed and corrupt elections in the developed world, and oughtn't that to be embarrassing to Americans?
Yes, it is embarrassing, and we have voter fraud running rampant throughout our country, and the Democrats are going to try to manipulate the elections, and Acorn did this. I mean, these are proven cases where they've manipulated and used voter fraud to try to...
Voter fraud existed before Acorn.
We'll
yeah, but we're talking
continue
about
this. Hold that thought. We'll continue this more with our great American panel writer. You were Bill Bradley's deputy campaign manager. This is a basketball. Is it this one?
No, I know you can do it.
I don't know. It was,
I know that you can do it.
Basketball, is that how you use it? I don't know. We'll be back with more right straight ahead on Hannity.